Alright guys, I've got something really exciting for you today. This is a guitar that claims to combine premium looks, pro level sound and a budget friendly price tag. This is the G4M 255 Deluxe and we're about to find out if it lives up to the hype. As you can see, it's still in the box, so we're starting from scratch. Unboxing, first impressions, and of course putting its sound to the test. Can this cheap guitar deliver a pro experience? Well, let's dive in and find out. Cool, got my knife. So let's get it open. So I'm excited to see what this one's like in person. I've seen pictures of it. All I know is it's purple and I like purple. Purple's my favorite color. It's quite an interesting shape. I've not seen a shape like this before. It looks a bit like a Telecaster mixed with some weird Gibson thing. But also I want to see how it sounds because I've not watched any videos of it yet. And if it can do metal or if it's just like an all-rounder and that kind of thing. So let's have a look. It's a box within a box. Oh my goodness. Let's get this mini box out of the giant box. Move that out of the way. Here we go. It's a box inside a box. There you go, there it is there. Interesting, you see? Looks like it's got no headstock, but I think they just cut the head off. Let's have a look. Da-da-da. And also this is the first time I'm literally opening it, so how it's set up is how it's been sent to me. In the box you get the standard cable and Allen key set, as if I need more Allen keys. I've got like 58 Allen keys lying around. Get rid of this. And then it's got a nice little bit of elastic band on top. Take that off. For all you ASMR fans out there. Oh, exciting. I always tend to break these, so let's see if I can do it without breaking it. Don't like the noise either. Here we go. Da-da-da, big reveal. Ta-da! Ta-da! Ooh! Didn't know it was quilted maple. Look at that. Purple as well, quilted maple. Yeah, it is an interesting shape. There you go, for the other camera you can see. Well, it's actually lighter than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be quite heavy. I guess it's like an SG Telecaster Les Paul single cut kind of thing. But I really like this quilted maple, that's really nice. And purple, like I said, is my favourite colour. It's got kind of like Fender-y type headstock with those little rolling string tree things. It's not like a metal guitar. It's not pointy. It's got quite a nice, what looks like maple neck on the back, and it's all glossy, which is cool. Let's see how I get on with that, because I'm not a huge fan of glossy, sticky things, because I've got quite dry hands. I'm not sure about the frets. I don't know if they're nickel or stainless steel. They look quite shiny, so they might be stainless steel, but that kind of stuff doesn't really bother me. And I'm not sure about the pickups, but they're probably going to be some kind of all-round, maybe like PAF sounding ones. The back string through with like a hip shot style bridge, freeway selector with a split coil I assume, and there's no pull-ups on here, so it's just tone and volume. Awesome, looks quite nice. Interested to see how it sounds. Is it in tune for starters? Now, I put the tuner on, it's as in tune as it can be. Let's have a look at the quality and everything. First thing that stood out to me that I noticed from feeling it was the action of the strings. I don't know if you'll already be able to see it from here, but if I can show you here slightly. The action of the strings is insanely high. As people say, you could drive a double-decker bus under there. I would instantly change that myself. I know it's for preference, but for me I'd say that that was almost unplayable, especially for a beginner. It's just way too high. The action, for those of you who don't know, is the height of the string, how far away it comes from the fretboard. And if it's really high, you've got to press down really hard and it hurts your fingers and that kind of thing. The intonation is off as well. The intonation of these screws under here, that means that when you fret a guitar note and then you fret it on the 12th fret, if one of them is flat or sharp, it means you need to change the intonation so that when you do open chords like these, as you can hear, some of the notes are out of tune, even though on the tuner they're perfectly in tune. There's this tiny little blemish up here, I don't know if you can see that on the headstock. It's kind of up here, there. That's kind of like an issue, but for me it's not really a big problem, but I'm just highlighting these things so you can see how they come out of the box. The fret ends are actually quite nice. That's these bits here. There's no sharp ends. They are kind of well rounded off. If they were sharp, it hurts your fingers when you run up and down it. Personally, I'm just not a huge fan of gloss necks. They're quite sticky and my hands are quite dry, so they kind of get stuck. They've got the standard G4M headstock logo that I know how everybody feels about those. People usually talk about them in the comments. But as far as I'm aware, I think they're changing that logo as well. They've got, I think, Wilkinson tuning pegs, not locking ones, just standard ones. Wilkinson are quite a good brand if that is them, because it says W, so I can assume that it is. It's got those little weird string tree things like Fender guitars tend to have. So it has the right amount of pitch and tension past the nut. You can see like a join here, but that's just where the wood has been glued together. The quilted maple is actually quite nice. Quilted maple obviously is a natural thing that happens with wood, and you have to choose it based on how it looks, and I quite like that. But the pickup height is okay, but I probably would adjust it. So yeah, I'm probably gonna have to set it up myself just to make sure it plays well, because at the moment it's kind of almost unplayable for me personally. The string height on this is way too high, and I know metal people tend to like low string action, but this is ridiculous. So yeah, I'll probably do that myself and then come back and show you how it sounds. So back from setting it up now, took me about 5-10 minutes. Few things to be aware of. The intonation screws at the bottom here are actually a little bit hard to get to. They're quite deep in there, so you need a really long screwdriver. I was trying to initially use one of these multi-tool ones and it wouldn't reach because the multi-tool bit was too big and it was touching the body. Luckily, the tools that come with it, the little Allen keys, the really small one is for adjusting the height of the hip shot start action on the bridge. This is now the string height I have compared to what I had before. It is no longer big enough for a double-decker bus to go under. You can also adjust these independently, so I have got slightly different heights for the thicker string and lower for the thinner ones. I didn't check earlier the truss rod, but I just checked it then, and actually it's not too bad. Usually I would have to adjust it, but in this case it's not too bad. So one thing also to be made aware of with guitars like this that have kind of little string trees or no locking nuts is you might need to use something like a fret wrap. Just going to use that now because what you'll notice is if you don't use a fret wrap, you get a lot of the kind of extra string noise, and a fret wrap gets rid of that. So without a fret wrap, you'd hear a lot of the excess behind the nut kind of going shing, whereas with this, cuts it off dead. It's a nice little dampener. Really useful. Got it plugged in. I'm now going to just try out some clean tones, and we're going to go through the pickups and stuff and just hear how it sounds. I'm switching between the 3 pickups here and using the coil tap switch. Coil tapping is where it turns a humbucker into 2 single coils, and if you do it in the middle, it makes these 2 on at the same time. If you do it in the neck, it makes that one single coil, and if you do it in the bridge, it makes that one single coil. You get nice glassy clean tones with a split coil switch. I think the clean tone sounds quite nice. I'm not a huge fan of the split coil tone on this one, mainly because it dives the volume down quite a lot, so I'd probably have to change my preset to give it a bit more gain or a bit more output. The neck profile is kind of like Fender Squier, but a bit thinner. It's not as baseball batty like a Gibson as you might expect with a shape like this. I find it a bit difficult to play. Like I said, the gloss on my dry hands is quite difficult. I get stuck to it. But other than that, other than having to do those initial setups, it's playing quite well. Let's hear how it sounds when we do some distortion tones. So for this tone, I'm once again using the Polychrome DSP McRocklin suite. I'm using a kind of hard rock and roll tone for things like The Darkness, Marshall tones, AC/DC, that kind of thing. Sounds pretty good with these pickups. I did notice that if I was using my standard kind of high gain heavy metal presets that I usually use for things like Metallica and Silosis, etc., I was getting quite a lot of buzz from these pickups. Even more so if I switched to the split coil tone, because that gets rid of any hum, because split coil tones don't have humbucking features, so you get quite a lot more hum. I noticed it gave me a lot more feedback if I use the split coil tones as well, so I avoided using those. So because of that, I'd say this guitar is probably more suited for hard rock rock and roll, clean tones, low gain. It's probably not suited for high gain, heavy metal, thrash metal, that kind of thing. If, however, you did love it so much that you wanted to play heavy metal or low tune stuff, you probably would benefit from changing the pickups out to something a bit more high gain, EMGs, Fishmans, bare knuckles, that kind of thing. But if not, it's going to be suited to a low gain, hard rock and roll player. Now let's hear how well this guitar does lead tones. The lead tones in this guitar actually were some of my favourite. I really enjoyed using the coil tapping feature because I'm a huge fan of single coil neck pickup sounds, and because with lead guitar tones you tend to have more gain and higher output from the presets or the amp, it sounded a lot better than it did when I was using it in clean, because that made it sound a lot quieter than I would like it. The guitar seemed to handle bends quite well. It didn't go out of tune very often, which was a nice surprise. The neck was really nice. The shape of it, I wasn't fighting it that much when I was playing the leads. I actually preferred playing it a lot more than I thought I would in the lead kind of position. And also it has 24 frets, and that really helps when playing leads because it means there's more room down here and there's less kind of fumbling around not knowing what notes you're trying to play and reaching them really far and that kind of thing. I would say this guitar plays leads quite well. So this guitar is about 250 British pounds, which is around about 300 US dollars. When I started learning to play the guitar 20 years ago, you'd be hard pressed to find a guitar of this build quality and this beautiful look for around about 300 pounds. You wouldn't get anywhere near as good as that. And if I was a beginner now, and my parents bought me this for Christmas or for my birthday, I would be overjoyed. I mean, I said earlier, purple is one of my favorite colors. It's got quilted maple on it, which is really nice. It's got two pickups. A lot of beginner guitars tend to have one and they tend to be single coil. It's a nice bolt-on neck. It's got a nice headstock shape. It's a British company as well. It looks stunning, and there are humbuckers with lots of other features like coil tap, stainless steel frets and those kind of things. So if I had this as a gift, I would be overjoyed as a beginner. It's hard to compare this guitar to anything else of this price point as well. I've never played a guitar for $300-ish with a quilted maple top. I've got guitars with quilted maple tops and they tend to be $1,000 at least because it's quite a premium feature. This might be a veneer, you never know, but that still looks the business, even if it isn't, you know, super duper expensive. I can't really compare it to anything I've played. Other guitars that I played like this, maybe like Telecaster, double cut shapes, don't have 24 frets, and I'm a huge fan of 24 frets, so that's a bonus as well. And like I said, the coil tap is an added bonus, and the fact that it's a string through, that's one of my favorite things. But I did find the hip shock bridge a little bit finicky to get in, and the intonation screws were a bit hard to adjust as well. But if I was a beginner again, I would absolutely love this guitar. If you're an intermediate player and you say, Jamie, I agree with you, I think this looks beautiful, but I don't think it will do the tones that I like. I want to do super low tuned, kind of brutal baritone sounding tunings, and this doesn't really fit the bill. You could get this, change the tuning pegs, change the pickups, maybe even change the bridge as well, and I still reckon you'd easily be around about $1,200, £1,000. So what I'm basically saying is, beautiful guitar, and if you don't love the sound, just mod the hell out of it. So I think it's a great budget guitar for beginners, intermediates, and even expert players out there as well. But this guitar does still have its fair share of limitations. If you're quite heavy-handed with your right hand like I am, you may notice you have to retune this guitar every so often. I was retuning it maybe every 2 minutes or so. Also, possibly because of the weird string tree thing that it's got, I was probably knocking it out of tune quite easily. Like I said earlier as well, the pickups have some weird buzzing issue, which I'm pretty sure isn't grounding. So if I was going to keep this and play the metal styles that I play, I would change them for something else, most likely. The setup also was a bit difficult initially when I got out of the box. So if you're a beginner and you got this, don't be disheartened. Don't think, oh, I'm going to send it back, I don't like it. Sometimes, pretty much all the time, guitars come set up straight from the warehouse and they might have been sitting there for a while. So I'd always advise at least an absolute minimum changing the strings before you play it properly. I haven't done that on this one because I want to show off how it came to me. But also, if you don't know how to do a setup yourself, take it to a luthier or a guitar store that can do it for you. Things like changing the action, intonation, pickup height and truss rod, those are things that are actually quite easy to do if you know what you're doing. But if you're an absolute beginner or you've just never done it before, it can be quite intimidating, and it is something that you can make mistakes in, especially with the truss rod. So I wouldn't mess around with it if you don't know what you're doing. But with all those things in mind, for the price point, the build quality of this is absolutely solid. I love the colour, I love the coated maple, I love bolt-on guitars, I like the weight of it, it's a nice weight, it's not too heavy, it's not too light, and I like that it has split coils as well. Considering again it's around about $300, it's been set up quite well in terms of fret edges, there's no cracks in the fretboard, the headstock's really nice other than that tiny little bit of paint which again is cosmetic. It feels comfortable to play, it sits well, there's no neck dive and stuff, so I think for the price point it's actually a really sturdy, well built guitar. The other bits I didn't like were just kind of preferential things that I personally wouldn't look for in a guitar like this. So if you're out there looking for a pro guitar at a budget price point, this is a good place to start, but you might need to mod it for your preferences, change some of those features out, the hardware, etc. But if you are looking to do some modding, the G4M 255 Deluxe is a great place to start. It looks absolutely beautiful, comes in 3 different colours, it's got some premium hardware, and if you really want to change out some of the pickups and stuff, you won't be breaking the bank if you added a bit of extra money to do that as well. So if you're looking for all those things, look no further than G4M 255 Deluxe. There's a link in the description below. Check it out now.